I spent $19,000 on my son's wedding. I paid for every single cent of that party. And in the middle of the reception, he took the microphone and said, "I want to thank my real mother," pointing to my son's mother-in-law. I sat in silence while everyone stared at me. Then I did something he will never forget. I am Stephanie. I am 70 years old, and for 45 of those years, I was the only mother Ethan ever knew. I adopted him when he was 5 years old, after his biological parents died in an accident. He was a shy, frightened boy who cried every night for his dead mother. I was a 25-year-old single woman. I worked double shifts at a garment factory to support him. I gave up my youth, my dreams, any chance of starting my own family. All for him. I gave him unconditional love, a private education, vacations I could never afford as a child. Ethan grew up spoiled, protected, wanting for absolutely nothing. I sacrificed everything I had and everything I was for that boy who was now publicly disowning me. When he turned 18, I told him the truth about his adoption. His reaction was cold, distant. "I already knew," he told me. "I always knew you weren't my real mother." Those words pierced me like knives, but I thought that with time, we would get past it. I was completely wrong. 3 years ago, Ethan met Ashley, a calculating woman who saw me as an obstacle from day one. She came from a wealthy family. Her mother, Carol, had properties, businesses, influence. Compared to that, I was just a retiree living on a modest pension in a simple apartment. To Ashley, I was an embarrassment to be hidden. Ashley began to whisper poison in my son's ear. "Your adoptive mother is so meddlesome," she would tell him. "My mother would never get so involved in our business." Ethan started to change. Visits became sporadic, phone calls shorter, his replies curt. With each passing day, my son drifted further away from me. But when they announced their wedding, I was ready to give everything for him, one more time. Ethan came to my house one afternoon, sitting on my sofa as if he were a stranger. "I need you to help with the wedding," he said without even a greeting. "Ashley's parents have already put in their share, but we need more money for the venue we want." I asked him how much he needed. $19,000. He replied without blinking. It was practically my entire life savings. The money I had saved from work, for medical emergencies, for my funeral, so I wouldn't be a burden to anyone. "That's a lot of money, Ethan," I told him. His response made my blood boil. "If you really loved me like you say you do, you wouldn't think twice." That night, I couldn't sleep. $19,000 represented 45 years of sacrifice, of working to exhaustion, of denying myself small pleasures to save every penny. But it was my son's wedding. I thought that maybe, after this gesture, he would remember everything I had done for him. I went to the bank the next day. I withdrew every cent of my savings. I handed the check to Ethan without conditions, without reproaches. He took it as if it were the most natural thing in the world, as if I owed it to him and so much more. He didn't even thank me. He just said, "Ashley is going to be happy." The following months were a hell of preparations, where I was treated like just another employee. Ashley decided everything, the menu, the flowers, the music, even where I was allowed to sit. "It's my wedding, not yours," she would tell me every time I tried to offer an opinion. Ethan remained silent, letting his fiancée humiliate me time and time again. One day, I tried to suggest we invite my few friends from the factory. Ashley looked at me with contempt and said, "We don't want this wedding to look ordinary." Ethan nodded. My friends, the women who had stood by me for decades, weren't good enough for the wedding I was paying for. The day of the wedding, I arrived at the venue early. I wore a coral dress I had bought especially for the occasion. I wanted to look dignified for my son. But when Ethan saw me, his first reaction was disgust. "Don't you have something more discreet?" he asked me. "I don't want you drawing attention," as if my very presence was an annoyance. The ceremony was beautiful. I cried with emotion, watching my little boy become a man, starting his own family. Despite everything, he was still my son, the little one I had once comforted in my arms. I thought that maybe, after the wedding, things would get better between us. How naive I was. Then came the time for the thank you speeches at the reception. Ethan took the microphone, smiled at all the guests, and said the words that shattered me. "I want to thank my real mother, Carol, for welcoming me into her family with so much love." And he pointed to my son's mother-in-law while everyone applauded. There, sitting at that table, in my coral dress with my broken heart, I made the most important decision of my life. That night, Ethan would learn what it meant to lose everything. I remained seated at that table, smiling as if nothing had happened. But inside, something had broken forever. The guests looked at me with pity. Some whispered among themselves. Carol, the mother-in-law, approached me with a fake smile. "Stephanie, what a lovely ceremony," she said in a syrupy voice. "Thank you for everything you did for Ethan when he was little. We'll take it from here." Those words were like a slap in the face. When he was little. As if my role had ended decades ago. As if 45 years of motherhood meant absolutely nothing. Carol kept talking. "Ashley told me you sacrificed a lot for Ethan. But you don't have to worry anymore. He's in good hands now." I nodded politely, but every word was a dagger. This woman, who had just appeared in my son's life a mere 3 years ago, believed she had the right to relegate me to the past. Ethan approached our table, beaming with happiness. "Wasn't my speech moving?" he asked. Carol hugged him. "It was beautiful, son. You moved us all. Son." She called him son, my son, the boy I had raised, educated, and loved unconditionally for 45 years. Ethan smiled and hugged her back. "Thanks, Mom Carol, for all the support you've given Ashley and me." He didn't even look at me. It was as if I were invisible at my own table. Ashley came running over in her pink dress. Did you see? Did you see what Ethan said? I'm so happy." She hung on her new husband's arm. "Sweetheart, my mom is planning a surprise honeymoon for us. 3 weeks in Europe, can you believe it?" Ethan kissed her passionately. "Your mom is incredible, always thinking of us." And there I was, the woman who had paid $19,000 for this wedding, watching them celebrate someone else's gifts. Carol had properties, thriving businesses, important connections. I just had an empty bank account and a shattered heart. The party continued. Ethan and Ashley danced their first dance as husband and wife. Carol recorded them on her phone, emotional, like a proud grandmother. I remained seated, watching my son live the most important day of his life without even acknowledging my presence. Around midnight, I decided to leave. I went over to Ethan to say goodbye. "I'm leaving, son. It was a beautiful wedding." He barely looked up from his conversation with Ashley's friends. "Oh yeah, thanks for coming." As if I were just any other guest. As if I hadn't financed every detail of the celebration. Ashley intercepted me on my way to the exit. "Stephanie, before you go, I wanted to ask you a favor." My heart filled with hope. Maybe she wanted to thank me. Maybe she wanted to acknowledge my sacrifice. "Ethan and I are planning to buy a house after the honeymoon. Something big, with a yard, in an exclusive neighborhood. We know you have some more savings put away." I froze. "Ashley, I just spent all my savings on this wedding." She smiled condescendingly. "Come on, Stephanie. A woman your age doesn't need that much money. Besides, it would be an investment in your son's future. Think about it." And she walked away, leaving me speechless. I left the hall with my legs trembling. The valet brought me my car, a small 15-year-old sedan that contrasted shamefully with the luxury vehicles of the other guests. As I drove back to my apartment, the tears began to fall. 45 years of unconditional love, summed up in one night of public humiliation. I got home and sat on my sofa, still in the coral dress. I looked around my modest apartment. The photos of Ethan on the walls, from age 5 to his college graduation. His room, which I had kept untouched for years, hoping he would come to visit. The birthday gifts he never used but that I kept lovingly. It all seemed like a mockery now. I had lived for that boy. I had given up everything for him. And now, he had erased me from his life with a single sentence. My real mother. As if the previous 45 years had been a lie. I couldn't sleep that night. I tossed and turned, replaying every moment of humiliation. The way Ethan had introduced me as the lady who raised me to some guests. The way Ashley had ignored me during the toast. The comments I overheard in the restroom. That poor thing. It must be painful to see your son prefer another family. The next day, Ethan called me from the airport. Just wanted to let you know we're leaving for our honeymoon." His voice was impatient, as if calling me was an obligation. "Oh, and Ashley wanted me to tell you that when we get back, we're going to need help with the expenses for the new house. You know, it's time for you to show how much you love me." Those words were the last straw. "Ethan," I said, my voice trembling, "I just spent all my savings on your wedding." He sighed with irritation. "Mom, don't be dramatic. I know you have more money saved up. You've always been very frugal." The line went dead. He didn't even say goodbye. I stood there with the phone in my hand, processing what had just happened. My son had just asked me for more money the day after his wedding, after publicly humiliating me. And when I told him I had spent everything on him, he hung up on me. It was in that moment that something inside me changed. For 70 years, I had been a submissive woman who swallowed her pride and put others before herself. I had accepted humiliation, disrespect, mistreatment, always thinking it was my duty to suffer in silence. But that phone call woke me up. Ethan didn't see me as his mother. He saw me as an ATM. Ashley didn't respect me as the woman who had raised her husband. She saw me as a rival to be eliminated. Carol wasn't grateful to me for having cared for Ethan for decades. She saw me as a nuisance from the past. I walked to my bedroom and opened my dresser drawer. There, at the bottom, was an envelope I hadn't touched in years. An envelope containing documents Ethan had never seen. Documents that proved something he had never suspected. I took out the papers with trembling hands. Certificates of deposit, property deeds, insurance policies, the inheritance from my father, which I had kept secret for decades. The assets I had accumulated by working not only at the garment factory, but also by intelligently investing every extra cent. Ethan thought I was a poor retiree living on a miserable pension. He had no idea that his adoptive mother owned properties valued at hundreds of thousands of dollars. He didn't know I had bank accounts at 3 different banks. He didn't suspect that the woman he had just publicly humiliated was wealthier than his precious mother-in-law, Carol. I smiled for the first time in months. Ethan wanted to know what it was like to have a real mother. Ashley wanted to see how much money she could get out of me. Carol wanted to erase me from my son's life. Very soon, all 3 of them were going to find out who they were dealing with. I picked up the phone and dialed a number I had saved for years. "Law Office of Miller," a professional voice answered. "This is Stephanie Herrera. I need to speak with Mr. Miller urgently. It's about a family inheritance." Mr. Miller saw me in his office 3 days later. He was an elegant man in his 50s with whom I had worked years ago when my father died. "Mrs. Herrera," he said, shaking my hand. "It's been a long time. How can I help you?" I sat across from his mahogany desk and took a deep breath. "I want you to review all of my assets, Mr. Miller. Properties, bank accounts, investments, everything I inherited from my father and everything I've accumulated over the years." Mr. Miller opened a thick folder. "Of course, I remember your father was a very forward-thinking man. Let me review the updated documents." While he read, I remembered how I had come to have this hidden fortune. My father had been a hard-working immigrant who bought cheap land on the outskirts of the city when I was a child. "Someday this will be worth gold," he used to tell me. He was right. That land was now in the heart of the financial district. "Impressive," Mr. Miller murmured. "You have 4 commercial properties, 2 luxury rental apartments, and investment accounts with a total value of—" He paused and looked at me over his glasses. $840,000, Mrs. Herrera." The figure hit me, even though I already knew it. $840,000. While Ethan had humiliated me over $19,000, I had nearly $1 million that he knew nothing about. "Mr. Miller," I said with a firm voice, "I want to make some changes to my will." For the next 2 hours, we went over every detail. Mr. Miller took notes as I explained my new decisions. "I want my son, Ethan, to be removed as the beneficiary of all my assets. In his place, I want to create a charitable foundation for single mothers who adopt children." The lawyer raised his eyebrows. "Are you sure, Mrs. Herrera? That's a very drastic decision." "Completely sure," I replied. "My son made it very clear at his wedding that I am not his real mother. If that's the case, then he has no right to inherit anything from a stranger." Mr. Miller nodded and continued writing. I also want you to prepare an official letter addressed to Ethan, informing him of these changes. I left the lawyer's office feeling liberated for the first time in years. I had taken the first step toward reclaiming my dignity, but this was just the beginning. Ethan, Ashley, and Carol had completely underestimated me. They thought I was a helpless little old lady they could trample on. They were about to find out how wrong they were. That same afternoon, I went to visit one of my properties, a sleek office building in the city center. The manager, Mr. Evans, greeted me with surprise. "Mrs. Herrera, what an honor to see you here. Is there anything you need?" I explained that I wanted to see the apartment on the top floor, the penthouse that had been vacant for months. "It's a beautiful property," Mr. Evans explained as we went up in the elevator. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, terrace with a panoramic view. We've had it listed for rent, but we haven't found the right tenant. When we entered the apartment, it took my breath away. It was spectacular. Marble floors, enormous windows, a modern kitchen that looked like it was out of a magazine. "Mr. Evans," I said, "cancel the rental listing. I'm moving in." The man looked at me, confused. "Are you sure, Mrs. Herrera? This apartment rents for $3,000 a month. Your current apartment must cost a fraction of that." I smiled. "I'm completely sure. Prepare the lease." That night, I called a luxury moving company. "I want you to move all my belongings from my current apartment to the penthouse of the solarium building tomorrow," I told them, "and I want you to hire decorators to make the place impeccable." The cost of the service was more than I used to spend in 3 months, but I no longer cared. The next day, as the movers were packing my things, I received a call from Ethan. He had just returned from his honeymoon. "Mom, where are you?" "I went to your apartment and there are moving trucks outside." His voice was worried, but not for me, for his plans to ask me for more money. "I'm moving, Ethan," I replied calmly. "Moving? Where to? Why didn't you tell me anything?" I could hear Ashley in the background asking what was wrong. "I didn't think it was necessary to inform you. After all, as you made very clear at your wedding, I am not your real mother." There was an awkward silence. "Mom, don't be dramatic. You know I love you. It's just that, well, Carol has been like a second mother to me." Those words confirmed what I already knew. To Ethan, I was replaceable. "Ethan," I said, "if you need me, my new number is with Mr. Miller. He has all my updated information." "Mr. Miller? Why do you have a lawyer?" "Mom, you're scaring me." For the first time in months, I detected insecurity in his voice. "I'm just putting my affairs in order, son. At 70 years old, it's the responsible thing to do." I hung up before he could respond. That afternoon, I settled into my new home. The penthouse was a dream come true. From the terrace, I could see the entire city spread out at my feet. The decorators had done an excellent job. Elegant furniture, silk curtains, a kitchen equipped with state-of-the-art appliances. I poured myself a glass of French wine, a bottle that cost more than I used to spend on a week's worth of groceries, and sat in my new living room. For the first time in decades, I felt in control of my life. No more living and waiting for scraps of affection from Ethan. No more accepting humiliation from Ashley. No more being invisible to Carol. On the 3rd day in my new apartment, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Stephanie? This is Carol, Ashley's mom." Her voice had lost all the fake sweetness from the wedding. "I need to speak with you urgently." I smiled. It was starting. "Of course, Carol. How can I help you?" There was a pause. "Ethan told me you moved and that you have a lawyer. Ashley is very worried. Did something happen?" The concern in her voice was music to my ears. After decades of being ignored, now they needed answers from me. "Nothing serious happened," I replied calmly. "I just decided to make some changes in my life. At 70, one learns that life is too short to waste on people who don't value you." Another, longer pause. "Stephanie, could we meet? I think there's been a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding? How interesting." When they humiliated me at the wedding, there were no misunderstandings. When Ethan asked me for more money the next day, there was no confusion. But now that I had disappeared from their lives, suddenly everything was a misunderstanding. "Of course, Carol, but you'll have to come to my new apartment. I don't go out as much as I used to." I gave her my new address, The solarium building was known throughout the city as one of the most exclusive. I knew Carol would recognize the address immediately. The solarium building? She asked, surprised. Yes, I confirmed. Penthouse, 25th floor. The doorman will announce you. I hung up, smiling. Carol arrived 2 hours later, accompanied by Ashley and Ethan. All three looked nervous when the doorman announced them. They can come up, I said through the intercom. When the elevator doors opened on my floor, their astonished faces were my first victory. Holy Mother, Ashley murmured, looking at the apartment. How can you afford this? Ethan walked through the living room as if he were in a museum, touching the furniture in disbelief. Carol maintained her composure, but I could see the confusion in her eyes. Please, sit, I said, gesturing to the Italian leather sofa. Would you like something to drink? I have French wine, Scotch whiskey, champagne. Carol politely declined, but Ethan couldn't hide his bewilderment. Mom, where did you get the money for all this? That question was exactly what I had been waiting for. I sat across from them, crossed my legs elegantly, and smiled. My dear Ethan, there are many things about your adoptive mother that you never bothered to ask. Ethan leaned forward, his eyes fixed on me. What do you mean by that, Mom? Carol and Ashley exchanged nervous glances. I could see their minds working, trying to understand how a simple retiree could live in such luxury. Well, I began slowly, savoring every second. It turns out that my father, your adoptive grandfather, was a very intelligent man with investments. When he died, he left me a few properties. Ethan frowned. Properties? You never told me anything about that. I smiled sweetly. You never asked, dear. For 45 years, you focused on what I could give you immediately. You were never interested in knowing my history, my origins, my family. The truth of those words hit the air like a slap. Ashley shifted uncomfortably on the sofa. But why did you live in that modest apartment if you had money? Her voice had an accusatory tone, as if I had personally lied to her. Because, my dear Ashley, I learned from a young age that money attracts the wrong kind of people. My father taught me to live with humility. Carol finally spoke. Stephanie, I understand you might be upset about some comments at the wedding, but Ethan loves you very much. He just wanted to thank our family for welcoming him so warmly. Her voice was conciliatory, but fake. Some comments? I repeated, letting the phrase hang in the air. Ethan stood in front of 200 guests and publicly declared that you are his real mother. That wasn't a comment, Carol. It was a declaration. Ethan turned pale. Mom, I didn't mean to. You didn't mean to what, Ethan? I interrupted. You didn't mean to hurt me? You didn't mean to humiliate me? You didn't mean to erase 45 years of motherhood in a single sentence? My voice had hardened. Or maybe you just didn't want me to find out who you really are. The silence stretched for several minutes. Ashley fidgeted with her wedding ring. Carol maintained her forced smile. Ethan looked at me as if seeing me for the first time. Mom, he said finally, I'm so sorry if I hurt you. It wasn't my intention. I was nervous, excited. Ethan, I cut him off. Let me tell you something about intentions. When you were 5 years old and cried every night, my intention was to comfort you. When I worked 2 jobs to pay for your private school, my intention was to give you the best opportunities. When I spent my savings on your wedding, my intention was to see you happy. I stood up and walked to the window, turning my back to them. But when you called me the day after your wedding, asking for more money, what was your intention, Ethan? When Ashley told me a woman my age doesn't need much money, what was her intention? Ashley turned red. I never said that. I turned slowly to face her. Really? Because I have a very good memory. Your exact words were, a woman your age doesn't need that much money. It would be an investment in your son's future. The tension in the room was palpable. Carol tried to mediate. Stephanie, I think we're all overreacting. We're family now. We should support each other. I smiled coldly. Family? What an interesting word. Ethan made it very clear that his real family includes you, Carol. I'm just the lady who raised him. Ethan stood up abruptly. Enough. This is ridiculous. You're acting like a spoiled child. His words echoed in the apartment like a gunshot. Carol looked at him reproachfully. Ethan, don't talk to your mother like that. But the damage was done. There it is, I said calmly. The real Ethan. The one who throws a tantrum when things don't go his way. I walked to my handbag and took out a folder. Since we're being honest, let me show you something. I opened the folder on the coffee table. They were photographs of my properties. This is the office building where I live now. I inherited it from my father. Ethan moved closer to get a better look. I also have this apartment complex in the Palermo district, Ashley gasped. And this shopping plaza downtown. Their faces reflected total disbelief. Carol stared at the photos as if they were alien documents. I also have investment accounts, I continued, and a few other minor properties. I closed the folder. In total, my net worth is $840,000. Ashley fainted. She literally slumped onto the sofa. Ethan rushed to help her, while Carol fanned her with a magazine. $840,000? Ethan murmured. You had $840,000 and you let me spend my savings on medical emergencies last year? That question showed exactly who he was. Even in this moment of shock, he couldn't see beyond his own self-interest. Ethan, I said softly, during that medical emergency, did you ever once ask how I was doing? Did you worry about my emotional health? Or did you just want the money? Carol helped Ashley sit up. The young woman was pale and trembling. I don't understand, she babbled. If you had so much money, why did you act like you were poor? Why did you let us pay for things if you could have? Her indignation was fascinating, as if I had stolen something from her. Ashley, I replied, I never acted poor. I simply lived on my pension and kept my assets private. You all assumed that because I was a retiree who adopted a child, I must be poor. That was your assumption, not my reality. Ethan ran his hands through his hair, processing the information. Mom, this changes everything. We could have done so many things together. We could have what, Ethan? I interrupted. Could we have been a real family? Or could we have spent my money on things you wanted? The question hung in the air. Ethan couldn't answer because we both knew the truth. Carol cleared her throat. Stephanie, I understand you're hurt, but now that we know the whole truth, we can start over. As a united family. I looked at this woman who had orchestrated my public humiliation and now wanted to start over, after discovering my fortune. Carol, I said with a smile, I'm afraid it's too late for that. I took another document out of my handbag. This is my new will. Ethan has been removed as a beneficiary of all my assets. All three faces went white simultaneously. In his place, I have created a foundation for single mothers who adopt abandoned children. The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan stared at me as if I had just shot him. Ashley began to sob. Carol maintained her composure, but her hands were trembling slightly. Mom, Ethan whispered, you can't do this. I'm your son. I smiled sadly. No, Ethan. As you made very clear at your wedding, I am not your real mother. And if that's the case, then you are not really my son. Ethan was paralyzed for several seconds, processing my words. Then he exploded. This is insane. You can't disinherit me over one stupid comment. His voice had become high-pitched, desperate. I'm your son. I've loved you my whole life. You've loved me? I asked calmly. Ethan, tell me one time in the last 3 years that you called me just to see how I was. One time you visited without asking for money. One time you included me in your plans without me having to pay for something. He fell silent. Ashley was sobbing on the sofa while Carol tried to comfort her. This is unfair, Ashley mumbled through her tears. We love him. My family welcomed him with love. The irony of her words was delicious. Now that they knew about my money, suddenly I was part of the family. Ashley, I said gently, when you told me a woman my age doesn't need much money, was that love? When you sat me at the back table at the wedding I paid for, was that family inclusion? When Ethan publicly thanked another woman as his real mother, was that respect? Carol finally spoke. Her voice had lost all pretense of sweetness. Stephanie, I understand you're hurt, but this is revenge. Are you really going to punish Ethan for the rest of his life over one mistake? Her words confirmed what I had always suspected. To her, I was just an obstacle between her new family and my money. It's not revenge, Carol, I replied. It's justice. Ethan made a conscious decision to replace me as his mother. Now he is living with the consequences of that decision. I walked over to the window, looking out at the city. Besides, I don't understand why you're so worried. According to Ethan, you are his real mother now. Surely you can provide for him. The silence that followed was telling. Ethan looked at Carol expectantly, but she looked away. The reality was that, despite all their posturing as a wealthy family, Carol's resources were nothing compared to mine. And now that Ethan knew how much money he had lost, Carol's support seemed insignificant. "Mom," Ethan said, his voice now pleading, "please, forgive me. I was an idiot. I was nervous at the wedding. I wanted to make a good impression on Ashley's family. I wasn't thinking about how you would feel." Tears began to roll down his cheeks. "I love you. I've always loved you. You are my mother, my only mother." It was fascinating to see how $840,000 could awaken so much filial love. "Ethan," I said, turning back to him, "if you truly love me, then respect my decision. This isn't just about the wedding. It's about 3 years of disrespect, of constant requests for money, of being treated like an annoying obligation." Ashley stood up, swaying. "This is my fault," she cried hysterically. "I convinced him to say that. I wanted my mom to feel special." Her desperate confession revealed the manipulation I had always suspected. "Ashley," I said, "I appreciate your honesty, but that only confirms that you two planned my humiliation." Ethan approached me, trying to take my hands. "Mom, please, we can fix this. We can be a real family. Ashley will apologize. I'll do anything you ask, but don't punish me like this." His eyes were red, his voice broken. It was the first time in years I had seen him show genuine emotion for me. "Ethan," I sighed, "do you know what the saddest part of all this is? It took you finding out about my money to remember that you love me. A week ago, when you thought I only had a meager pension, you hung up on me when I told you I had spent my savings on your wedding." Carol stood up abruptly. "Well, this has been very emotional, but I think we all need time to reflect." Her change of tactic was obvious. She could no longer pretend this was just a family misunderstanding. She now knew she was dealing with a woman with enough resources to do whatever she wanted. "You're right," I agreed. "You do need time to process this, especially since there's more news." I pulled another document from my handbag. "I've decided to move to Europe. I've already bought an apartment in Barcelona." All three faces filled with horror. "I'm leaving in 2 weeks." "You can't leave," Ethan shouted. "This is your home. Your family is here." The desperation in his voice was palpable. "Ethan," I replied, "my home is where I am respected. My family are the people who value me. Clearly, that isn't here." Ashley clung to Ethan's arm. "Tell her not to go. Tell her we'll do whatever it takes." It was pathetic to see how money had transformed her attitude toward me. The same woman who had told me I didn't need much money was now begging me not to leave. "There is only one thing that would make me reconsider," I said slowly. The three of them leaned forward, hopeful. "I want Ethan to make a public apology, a video where he explains exactly what he did wrong at the wedding and why he's sorry, and I want him to post it on his social media." Ethan went pale. "A public video? But that would be humiliating." The irony was perfect. He had publicly humiliated me. But now that it was his turn, suddenly humiliation was unacceptable. "Exactly," I replied. "Now you understand how I felt." Carol interjected quickly. "That's reasonable. Ethan can make the video." But Ethan shook his head. "I can't do that. My friends, my coworkers, everyone will see it." His pride was more important than our supposed filial love. "Then, I suppose there's nothing more to talk about," I said, walking toward the door. "I'll see you out." Ethan grew desperate. "Wait, give me time to think about it." But I had already made up my mind. His reaction had confirmed what I needed to know. "Ethan," I said as I opened the door, "you've had 45 years to think about our relationship. You've had 3 years to treat me with respect. You've had 3 weeks since the wedding to genuinely apologize. You don't need more time. You need better priorities." The three of them left the apartment in silence. From my window, I watched them get into a taxi. Ethan was looking up at my floor with a desperate expression. Ashley was crying on Carol's shoulder. It was a pathetic sight, but I felt no pity for them. That night, I poured another glass of wine and sat on my terrace. The city spread out at my feet, glittering with thousands of lights. For the first time in decades, I felt completely free. No more begging for money, no more family humiliations. No more living for someone who didn't value me. My phone rang several times. Ethan, Ashley, even Carol sent me desperate messages, promises of change, pleas for forgiveness, offers of family therapy. I ignored them all. They had already had their chance to be a real family. They had wasted it. The next day, I received an unexpected call. It was Javier, an old friend from the garment factory. "Stephanie, I saw your son at the mall yesterday. He looked terrible. Is everything okay?" I smiled. News traveled fast. "Everything is perfectly fine, Javier." Finally, everything is as it should be. Over the next few days, Ethan intensified his attempts to contact me. Calls at all hours, desperate text messages, even flowers sent to my apartment. All his efforts were in vain. He had crossed a line from which there was no return. On the fourth day after our confrontation, I decided to go shopping. I had to prepare for my move to Barcelona and wanted to buy some elegant things for my new life. I chose the most exclusive jewelry store in the city, a place where only the truly wealthy shopped. When I entered the boutique, the saleswoman looked at me with some disdain. I was wearing simple clothes, nothing to indicate my true net worth. "How can I help you?" she asked condescendingly. "I'm interested in seeing some special pieces," I replied. "Diamond necklaces, perhaps some sapphires." The woman led me to a modest display case. "These are our more accessible pieces," she said, showing me jewelry she clearly considered appropriate for my budget. I smiled politely. "Excuse me, but I meant your truly special pieces, the ones you keep for VIP clients." Her expression changed slightly. "Those pieces are very expensive, ma'am. They start at $50,000. Her tone implied I couldn't afford them. "Perfect," I replied. "Show them all to me." I took out my platinum credit card and placed it on the counter. The saleswoman's eyes widened. As I was examining a spectacular diamond necklace, I heard familiar voices near the entrance. It was Ashley with Carol, apparently also out shopping. "We can't let her go to Europe," Ashley was whispering. "Ethan is a wreck. He hasn't slept in days." "I'll handle it," Carol replied with determination. "That woman just wants attention. We'll make her an offer she can't refuse." They approached the counter where I was, but they didn't see me immediately, because my back was to them as I tried on the necklace. "Excuse me," Carol said to the saleswoman. "We're looking for something special for a family reconciliation. Something to show how much we value someone." The saleswoman, who was now treating me like royalty after seeing my card, pointed toward the basic display cases. "We have some beautiful pieces over there." I turned around slowly. "Carol, what a coincidence to find you here." Ashley gasped when she saw me wearing the diamond necklace. It was a spectacular piece that glittered like fire under the jewelry store's lights. "Stephanie," Carol stammered. What a surprise." The saleswoman looked at us, confused. "Do you know each other?" "Oh, yes," I replied with a smile. "We're family. Or at least, that's what they thought." Carol turned red. "Stephanie, what a beautiful necklace. It must be very expensive." Her voice was strained, trying to keep up appearances. $65,000, I replied casually. "But I like it so much, I think I'll take it." Ashley swayed on her feet. $65,000? On a necklace? Her shock was delicious. This was the same woman who had told me I didn't need much money. Carol tried to regain her composure. "Stephanie, since we're here, I'd like to talk to you. Ethan is very sorry. He hasn't eaten in days. He can't work. Ashley is suffering a great deal too." Her words sounded rehearsed, as if she had practiced this speech. "What a shame," I replied, examining some sapphire earrings. "But I'm sure that you, as his real mother, will be able to comfort him." The saleswoman was following our conversation with fascination. She had probably never witnessed a family drama in her exclusive boutique. Ashley approached me desperately. Please, Stephanie. Ethan confessed everything to me. He told me you adopted him when he was little, that you gave up everything for him. I didn't know the whole story. Her tears seemed genuine, but they came far too late. Ashley, I said gently, 3 weeks ago at your wedding, when you publicly humiliated me, where were these tears of regret? When Ethan asked me for more money the next day, where was this understanding of my sacrifice? She couldn't answer. Carol intervened quickly. Stephanie, we understand we made mistakes. That's why we're here. We want to make peace. We want to buy you something beautiful as a symbol of our apology. She gestured toward the display cases. Choose whatever you like. We'll pay. The irony was exquisite. They were offering to buy me a gift with my own money, indirectly, since everything they had came from Ethan, and Ethan had lived off my resources for years. How generous, I murmured. But I've already chosen what I want. I pointed to the necklace I was wearing. $65,000? Carol whispered, her face losing its color. That's a lot of money. Her reaction revealed the truth about their supposed wealth. If they were really as affluent as they pretended, 65,000 wouldn't be that much. It's not much to me, I replied. In fact, I think I'll also take these earrings and this bracelet. The total came to $120,000. Ashley sat down in a chair, overwhelmed. Carol was trying to maintain her dignity, but the shock was evident. The saleswoman processed my purchase with professional efficiency. Will that all be on one card, ma'am? Yes, please. The sound of the machine processing the transaction filled the tense silence. Carol and Ashley stared at me as if I were an alien. Stephanie, Carol said finally, you clearly have resources we were unaware of. This changes things. We could be partners in some businesses, form a real family alliance. Her change of tactic was so obvious it was pathetic. Carol, I replied, as I put away my new jewelry, when you thought I was poor, you treated me like trash. Now that you know I have money, you want to be partners. Don't you see the problem with that logic? Her silence was revealing. Ashley stood up, swaying. Stephanie, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but Ethan does. He truly loves you. He's considering making the video you asked for. That information caught my attention. Really? And what's stopping him? His pride, Ashley admitted. He's afraid his friends and colleagues will judge him. But I told him that if he really loves you, he should swallow his pride. For the first time, Ashley had said something sensible. It was ironic that she was the one who understood what Ethan needed to do. Well, I said, heading for the exit, when Ethan decides what's more important to him, my love or his public image, he knows where to find me. I left them there, processing my words and probably calculating how much money they had just seen leave my credit card. That afternoon, as I admired my new jewelry in my apartment, I reflected on the encounter. Seeing Carol and Ashley in that jewelry store had been revealing. Their shock at my spending power confirmed they had never taken me seriously as a person with resources. To them, I had always been the poor relative who needed their charity. My phone rang. It was Ethan. This time, I decided to answer. Hello, son. His voice was hoarse, exhausted. Mom, Ashley told me she saw you at the jewelry store. She told me what you bought. There was a pause. I didn't know you had that much money available for personal expenses. Ethan, I said, there are many things about me you never knew because you never asked. His breathing was heavy on the other end of the line. Mom, I'm considering making the video, but I need to know that you'll really forgive me if I do. That question revealed exactly who Ethan was. Even in his apology, he needed guarantees. He needed to know what he would get in return. Ethan, I replied, a genuine apology doesn't come with conditions. You either feel real remorse or you don't. You decide. Ethan hung up without responding. For the next 2 days, I heard nothing from him. Ashley sent me a few messages saying he was reflecting deeply on the video. Carol tried to call me several times, but I didn't answer. I had already said everything I had to say. On the 3rd day, as I was packing my belongings for the move to Barcelona, my phone exploded with notifications. Ethan had posted the video to his social media. With trembling hands, I opened the app to watch it. My son appeared on screen, clearly nervous, with deep dark circles under his eyes. Hi everyone, Ethan began, his voice cracking. I need to talk about something very important. 3 weeks ago, at my wedding, I made the biggest mistake of my life. He ran his hands through his hair, visibly distressed. I told everyone I wanted to thank my real mother, referring to my mother-in-law. My heart raced as I listened. What I didn't say that night is that my real mother, my only mother, is Stephanie Herrera. She adopted me when I was 5 years old, after my biological parents died. For 45 years, she gave me all her love, her time, her money, her dreams. Tears began to roll down Ethan's cheeks. My mom worked 2 jobs to pay for my private school. She gave up having her own family to take care of me. She spent all her savings on my wedding, $19,000 that she had saved her entire life. His voice broke completely, and I repaid her with public humiliation. I treated her like she was a nobody. I called her the day after the wedding asking for more money. I let my wife treat her badly. I allowed my mother-in-law to replace her. Ethan was now sobbing uncontrollably. I'm an ungrateful son who doesn't deserve the love of that extraordinary woman. The video continued for 5 more minutes. Ethan detailed specifically each of his failings, every moment of disrespect toward me. He admitted that he had known about the adoption from a young age, but had never truly thanked me for saving his life. He confessed that he had seen me as an ATM for years. My mother, Stephanie, has disinherited me, Ethan continued, and she has every right to do so. I destroyed our relationship out of vanity, for wanting to impress people who weren't worth it. If she decides to move to Europe and never see me again, I will understand, because I broke the heart of the one person who loved me unconditionally. The video ended with Ethan looking directly at the camera. Mom, if you're watching this, I want you to know that I am sorry for every second of pain I caused you. I don't expect your forgiveness. I just hope you find the happiness you deserve, with or without me. The screen went black. My tears were falling onto my phone as I read the comments. There were hundreds of them. You're a thankless brat, one person wrote. That woman deserves a better son, commented another. I hope your mother never forgives you, said a third. The video was going viral. My phone rang immediately. It was Javier, my friend from the factory. Stephanie, I just saw Ethan's video. Everyone is talking about it. Are you okay? His voice reflected shock and compassion. I'm fine, Javier. Better than I've been in years. That boy looks destroyed, Javier continued. But what he did at that wedding was unforgivable. Are you really moving to Europe? I looked around my apartment, at the packed boxes, the plane tickets already purchased. Yes, Javier, it's time for me to live for myself. Over the next few hours, I received calls from people I hadn't heard from in years. Former coworkers, neighbors, even some distant cousins who had seen the video. They all expressed their support and their outrage at the treatment I had received. We always knew you were too good for him, my old supervisor from the factory told me. Ashley showed up at my apartment that same afternoon, unannounced. Her face was swollen from crying. Stephanie, please open the door. I know you're in there. Her voice was desperate. I finally opened it, more out of curiosity than compassion. Ethan hasn't stopped crying since he posted the video, Ashley said, walking in uninvited. He's getting hundreds of hate messages. His coworkers are looking at him differently. Some clients have canceled meetings with him. Her description filled me with a satisfaction I didn't expect. And? I asked coldly. Am I supposed to care about that? Ashley collapsed onto my sofa. Stephanie, he did what you asked. He made the public video. He completely humiliated himself. Isn't that enough? Her question revealed how little she understood the situation. Ashley, I explained patiently, the video doesn't erase 45 years of ingratitude. It doesn't undo the humiliation of the wedding. It doesn't repair the emotional damage you both caused me for years. She looked at me as if I were being unreasonable. But he publicly apologized. He admitted his mistakes. Yes, I agreed. After he found out about my money, after he knew he was going to lose a multi-million-dollar inheritance, do you think he would have made that video if I were actually poor? The question left her speechless because we both knew the truth. Ashley tried a different tactic. Stephanie, I made mistakes too. I was young, immature. I let my mom influence my opinions about you. Her apology sounded rehearsed, desperate, but now I understand. You are an extraordinary woman, strong, independent. Ashley, I interrupted her. 3 weeks ago, you told me I didn't need much money. You sat me at the back table at the wedding I paid for. You allowed Ethan to publicly humiliate me. At what point, during those years, did you show me any respect? She couldn't answer. Besides, I continued, where is your husband now? Why didn't he come to apologize himself? Ashley looked down. He's ashamed. He says he can't face you after what he did. Her answer confirmed what I suspected. Ethan was still a coward. Stephanie, Ashley pleaded, give us a chance. We can be a real family. Ethan has learned his lesson. I have too. Even my mom says she was wrong about you. The mention of Carol made me laugh. Oh, so now Carol admits she was wrong? How convenient. Ashley stood up desperately. What can we do? What do you need to forgive us? Her question revealed she still didn't get it. She still thought this was a negotiation, that there was a price for my forgiveness. Ashley, I said, walking her to the door, some things don't have a price. Some wounds don't heal. Some relationships can't be repaired. But family love, she started to say. Family love, I interrupted, is built on mutual respect, not desperate pleas when an inheritance is discovered. I opened the door. Ethan had 45 years to show genuine family love. He chose contempt. Now he must live with that choice. Ashley left in tears. From my window, I saw her get into a taxi, talking frantically on the phone, probably reporting back to Ethan that their latest strategy had failed. The viral video, the public pleas, the promises of change, nothing was working. That night, as I had dinner alone on my terrace, I received a message from Ethan. It was a picture of him in what looked like a doctor's office. Mom, I'm in therapy. I'm going to work on being a better person. I love you. I deleted the message without replying. His therapy came too late. His changes were reactive, not proactive. Everything he was doing now was out of fear of losing money, not out of genuine love for me. The difference was crucial, and Ethan had already shown his true priorities. My flight to Barcelona was scheduled for 5 days later. As I looked out at the city lights, I felt completely at peace with my decision. Ethan had chosen to replace me as a mother. Now, I was choosing to replace him as a son. The last few days before my departure passed in a blur of preparations and constant drama. Ethan's video had reached over 1 million views. The comments continued to pour in by the thousands, most of them supporting me and condemning my son's ingratitude. Some local media outlets had even contacted Mr. Miller, asking for interviews with me. You've become a symbol for mothers mistreated by ungrateful children, Mr. Miller informed me during our last meeting. Women are sharing their own similar stories on social media. Your case has struck a very sensitive nerve in society. The irony was not lost on me. After decades of silence, I finally had a voice. 2 days before my flight, Ethan appeared in the lobby of my building. The doorman called to announce his presence. Tell him I'm packing, I replied. I don't have time for visitors. From my window, I could see him waiting on the street for hours like an abandoned dog. His presence annoyed me, but his desperation no longer moved me. That same afternoon, I received an unexpected call. It was Carol, but her tone had changed completely. Stephanie, I need to speak with you urgently. It's about my business. Her voice was tense, worried. Your business? I asked, intrigued. What does that have to do with me? The video scandal has affected my company, Carol admitted with difficulty. Some important clients have canceled their contracts. They say they don't want to be associated with a family that mistreated an adoptive mother. Her confession filled me with satisfaction. The consequences were spreading beyond Ethan. What a shame, I replied, without a hint of compassion. But I'm sure a successful businesswoman like yourself will find a way to recover. The sarcasm in my voice was evident. Stephanie, Carol pleaded, could you help me? A public statement saying you hold no ill will toward our family. You want me to lie publicly to save your business reputation? I interrupted. Carol, you orchestrated my humiliation at that wedding. You convinced Ethan that I was replaceable. Now you are reaping what you sowed. I hung up before she could respond. The night before my departure, Ashley and Ethan showed up at my building together, This time they came up unannounced, probably by bribing the night doorman. When they knocked on my door, I was already in my pajamas, relaxing with a glass of wine. "Mom, please," Ethan shouted through the door. "Just give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes to explain everything." His voice was hoarse, desperate. "Ethan," I called back from inside, "you had 45 years to explain things. It's too late now. You can't punish me forever," he finally exploded. "I'm your son. You have to forgive me." His demand revealed his true character. Even now, he believed he had a right to my forgiveness, that I owed him something. "Ethan," I said clearly, "I owe you nothing. You owe me 45 years of gratitude that I never received." Ashley interjected, her voice pleading. "Stephanie, Ethan has lost 10 pounds. He can't work, he can't sleep. The doctors say he's severely depressed." Her words were meant to awaken my maternal compassion, but they only confirmed that Ethan was suffering from the consequences, not from genuine remorse. "Ashley," I replied, "when Ethan humiliated me at the wedding, were you worried about my mental health? When he asked me for more money the next day, did you think about my emotional well-being? Suffering is an excellent teacher. Maybe Ethan will learn something from it." They stayed outside my door for 2 hours, alternating between pleas and reproaches. They finally left when I threatened to call security. From my window, I watched them walk away, Ethan shuffling his feet like a defeated man. It was the image of justice in action. The morning of my departure dawned sunny and clear. As the moving service picked up my last belongings, I felt strangely light. I had lived for 70 years, 45 of them completely dedicated to Ethan. Now, for the first time in decades, I would live only for myself. Mr. Miller arrived to say goodbye and give me the final documents. "Everything is in order, Stephanie. The charitable foundation is established, your properties are under professional management, and the new will is irrevocable." His words officially sealed my new life. "Is there any chance you'll change your mind?" Mr. Miller asked with professional curiosity. "Ethan seems genuinely repentant now." I smiled sadly. "Mr. Miller, Ethan is repentant of the consequences, not of his actions. If I were actually poor, do you think he would be in therapy and making viral videos?" My flight was at 6 in the evening. At 3, while waiting for the taxi to the airport, my phone rang one last time. It was Ethan. This time I decided to answer, not out of compassion, but to definitively close this chapter. "Hello, Ethan." His breathing was heavy, ragged. "Mom," he whispered. "I know it's too late, but I need to tell you something before you go." I waited in silence. "I looked through my childhood photos last night. You're in all of them. Every birthday, every graduation, every important moment. You were always there, always smiling, always proud of me." His words were beautiful, but they came too late. "Ethan," I said gently, "those photos were always there. My sacrifices were always evident. My love was always unconditional. You didn't need to lose an inheritance to realize that." The silence stretched between us. "Is there anything I can do?" he finally asked, his voice cracking. "Any way to earn your forgiveness?" I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of 45 years of motherhood. "Ethan, forgiveness isn't earned, it's deserved. And that's built day by day, year after year, with respect and gratitude. You chose the opposite path. So this is forever," he murmured. "This is your final decision." His tone was a mix of desperation and acceptance. "Ethan," I said with a firm voice, "this isn't a decision. It's a consequence. The natural consequence of your choices over many years." I hung up the phone and turned it off. My taxi arrived on time. As I left the building for the last time, carrying only a small suitcase with the essentials, I felt like a butterfly emerging from its chrysalis. 70 years to learn that self-love isn't selfishness, it's survival. The airport was full of families saying goodbye, couples embracing, children crying over temporary separations. I was walking alone toward my new life, but I didn't feel lonely. I felt free. Free from unrequited expectations, free from unvalued love, free from unrecognized sacrifices. As I waited in the departure lounge, I thought of the women I had known throughout my life, women who had sacrificed everything for their children, only to be forgotten or mistreated in their old age. My story had gone viral because it wasn't unique. It was universal. Flight 807 with service to Barcelona is now boarding, the airport announcer's voice said. I stood up, adjusted my handbag, and walked toward my new life. I didn't look back once. 6 months later, I was sitting on the terrace of my apartment in Barcelona, watching the sunset over the Mediterranean Sea. My new life had exceeded all my expectations. I had found peace, purpose, and, for the first time in decades, a genuine happiness that didn't depend on the approval of others. My apartment in the Gothic Quarter was perfect. 3 bedrooms with a sea view, decorated with furniture I had chosen, filled with plants I cared for, surrounded by neighbors who knew me as Stephanie, not as Ethan's mother. Here, I was simply an independent woman, living her best life. I had established a routine that filled me with satisfaction: painting classes on Tuesdays, volunteering at a center for single mothers on Thursdays, dinners with my new friends on Saturdays. For the first time in my adult life, my time belonged completely to me. No more waiting for calls that never came. No more canceled plans for someone else's whims. The charitable foundation I had created with my inheritance was thriving. Brave mothers had already helped 50 women who had adopted children without family resources. Seeing their faces of gratitude gave me more satisfaction than all the years of unacknowledged child rearing. These women valued my support because they understood the sacrifice. My Spanish phone rarely rang with drama. I had changed all my numbers, closed my old social media accounts, and completely cut ties with my past life. Mr. Miller sent me monthly reports on my properties, but didn't mention Ethan unless it was strictly necessary. One afternoon in November, as I was reading on my sofa, I received an unexpected email. It was from Javier, my old friend from the factory. Stephanie, I hope you are well in Barcelona. I'm writing because I thought you should know. Ethan got divorced. Ashley left him 3 months ago. He also lost his job because of the video scandal. He's living with Carol now. The news didn't surprise me. Ashley had shown her true colors when she thought I was poor. Once Ethan lost his status and money, it was logical that she would abandon him. I also wanted to tell you, Javier continued, that Ethan has been going to intensive therapy. The therapist says he's working on deep issues of abandonment and gratitude. I deleted the email without replying. Ethan's therapy, his divorce, his work problems, they were no longer my responsibility. For 45 years, I had carried his problems as if they were my own. Now, he would have to navigate his life without my emotional and financial safety net. A month later, in December, Mr. Miller called with news I had been expecting. Stephanie, Ethan is trying to contest the will. He hired a lawyer who is claiming you were not of sound mind when you made the changes. His legal strategy didn't surprise me. It was his last, desperate resort. Does he have any chance of success? I asked calmly. Mr. Miller laughed. None whatsoever. We have videos of you signing the documents, psychological evaluations confirming your mental clarity, and witnesses to your decision-making capacity. Besides, the judge has already seen the viral video where Ethan admits to his mistreatment of you. Perfect, I replied. Let him waste money he doesn't have on lawyers. It will be an additional lesson on the consequences of his decisions. Mr. Miller processed the documentation to defend my will, but we both knew it was a formality. Ethan had lost, legally and morally. In January, I received a letter that reached me through the Spanish consulate. It was from Ethan, handwritten on cheap paper. Mom, it began in a shaky script. I know I have no right to write to you, but I need you to know that I finally understand everything you did for me. Therapy has opened my eyes. The letter continued for 3 pages, detailing his therapeutic process, his revelations about his behavior, his plans to be a better person. It ended with, I don't expect your forgiveness, but I hope you know that your love was not in vain. I am trying to be the man you deserved as a son. I read the letter once and put it in a drawer. His words were beautiful, but they came too late. The Ethan who wrote that letter had always existed inside him. He had chosen to suppress it for decades out of vanity and convenience. His awakening was his responsibility, not my victory. In March, as I celebrated my 71st birthday in a restaurant overlooking the sea with my new Catalan friends, I reflected on my transformation. Carmen, a cheerful 68-year-old widow, raised her glass of cava. To Stephanie, the bravest woman we know. For daring to live for herself, added Isabel, a retired artist. For rejecting toxic love, added a third. For showing that it's never too late to reclaim your dignity. Their words moved me more than any congratulations Ethan had ever given me in decades. These women valued me for who I was, not for what I could give them. That night, in the privacy of my apartment, I allowed myself to cry for the first time since my arrival in Barcelona. Not from sadness, but from relief. I had spent 70 years learning a crucial lesson. Love that diminishes you is not love. It's manipulation. Family that only seeks you out in emergencies is not family. It's convenience. I took out a photo of Ethan from when he was 10 years old. It was a picture of us in a park, him smiling in my arms after I taught him how to ride a bike. "I loved you with all my heart," I whispered to the photo. "But loving doesn't mean allowing mistreatment. I hope you find the peace that I have found." I put the photo in the same drawer where his letter was. My past as a sacrificial mother was over. My future as a whole woman had begun. At 71, I had finally learned the most important lesson of my life. It is never too late to choose yourself. From my terrace, I could hear the waves of the Mediterranean breaking against the rocks. The sound reminded me that life, like the sea, is in constant motion. The tides change, storms pass, but the ocean remains. I, too, had learned to remain, but on my own terms. My phone vibrated with a message from the foundation. A new single mother had adopted twins and needed support. I smiled as I wrote my reply. This woman would receive all the help I never had, all the recognition I never received. Her gratitude wouldn't fill the void Ethan had left, but it would build something new and beautiful. As I put down the phone, I looked once more toward the infinite horizon. Barcelona had given me something I never thought possible at my age: a new beginning. I didn't regret adopting Ethan. I only regretted not understanding sooner that kindness should never be practiced at the cost of self-destruction. The Mediterranean wind rustled the curtains on my terrace as I prepared for bed. Tomorrow would be another day in my new life, full of possibilities that I would choose. For the first time in 71 years, the future belonged completely to me. And that, finally, was enough.